Karibuni sana to the 5th annual Kenya Youth Summit. Such an amazing privilege to have you guys, join us yet again. And this is the 5th year we're doing this. And guess what? This year we have an amazing set of panelists. And you're just gonna, be meeting them shortly and interacting with them. But what excites me the most is that these guys are young guys, they are vibrant guys. They are guys who are just doing amazing things in their spaces, even in their youth. You're gonna get to, hear from them shortly. So, maybe just to highlight, why do we do the Kenya Youth Summit? This is the 5th time we're doing it again, as I said. And some of the objectives we want to meet, even as we do this summit, is to really engage the youth and leverage them for solutions, not only for Kenyan issues, but for global issues. So that's one of the things we really want to achieve, by doing this summit every year. And the other thing we want to do is to really inform the youth on what's happening around and to encourage them to continue pursuing their dreams and live out, fulfilled aspirations, Talk about your preferred future. What does that future look like, and what do you need to start doing and engaging so that you can be able to realize that? And lastly, we just want to, facilitate connections and networks, between the youth and even influencers and thought leaders so that they're able to accelerate and catalyze their dreams. So this is what I want you guys to do for me. So do me a favor, don't get out of here. Take that link, share it with your friends on WhatsApp, on your socials, on your Instagram, and let guys get on this conversation and engage, even as we have this amazing conversation this afternoon. So guys, are you ready to engage?
Yes.
Absolutely. Excellent. So I want to start by introducing these amazing panelists who are here with us. And these are guys who are, leaders in their own right, and they're doing various things in community. And you're going to get to hear about that shortly. And so on my extreme right is Thomas Nudi. So Thomas, I think I met you when you were a young man, back at St. Paul's University as a student leader.
Yeah.
And it's just been amazing to see your journey and the kind of things you've been able to achieve over the years, even as far as leadership is concerned. I was just going through your profile and I was like, hey, this is a book. I cannot even get the time to read all this. But I think some of the notable things that we can mention about you is that you're the founder of the Nudi Empire Foundation. And I know you're going to be telling us a bit about that shortly, which is a CBO registered in Kenya. And you have also been, awarded severally, I see. University Student Leaders Award in 2019 under the Africa Youth Leadership Forum, and also Utumishi Bora Awards in 2019. So you're going to be telling, us a bit about this as well. And you're also a member of the AYLF, the Trust Edge Leadership Institute as well, and the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. I see you engaged in very many avenues. I don't know how you managed to do all this, but it's great to have you on board this afternoon. Unaweza salimia wananchi pale kwa kamera and pass your regards.
Good afternoon, wherever you're watching us from. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. I'm glad to be here and also to engage, even as we dispense on matters leadership this afternoon. Thank you, and looking forward for a fruitful discussion.
Amazing. Thank you, Thomas. And right next to Thomas is another good friend of mine, Flavia, or is it Flavia? I had somebody ask you earlier, is it Flavia or Flavia?
It's Flavia.
It's Flavia.
Yes.
Murugi. And Flavia is just from the mountain. She summited Mount Kenya just yesterday, and she was coming back yesterday evening. So it's really an honor and a privilege to have you seated here today, and energetic, well at it. And Flavia, apart from being a professional mountain climber, by the way, this was her 8th summit of Mount Kenya. And you also summited Mount Kilimanjaro
5 times.
5 times. Yeah. So guys, if you need somebody to, this is your plug. If you need to climb anything, in life, that's your plug. But apart from doing that, she's a team leader at Inspire Spaces, which is an NGO in Kenya that bridges the gap, by offering scholarships to needy students right from high school to university. And you guys are doing a brilliant job, at that. And you're also a Movement Day scholar, and maybe you mention a bit about that as we go on. She's worked at, several companies before, SMEs Founders Association, Scan Group, Equity Bank, Aga Khan Academy, Senior School, and Family Media. She's also served as a pastor at Parklands Baptist, and now at Roark Assembly. I think Flavia has done everything. The only thing you've not done is farming, because from this profile, it's very loaded. So Flavia, karibu sana. It's nice to have you on this panel.
Thank you.
Salimia wananchi.
Yeah. Yeah, Asante Sana Joe. I'm so happy to be here and excited as we see how iron will sharpen iron. So as you listen to us, give us your feedback also in the comments section. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Flavia. On my left, Mevuka Sakafu. We have right next to me Nancy Mudhoni. And Nancy Mudhoni is a communications guru. Communications officer at Youth Safety Awareness Initiative under the brand name Crime CPOA. And I think we've heard, what's his name? Yes, we've had Pete before in this summit speaking to us. And that's your, your colleague, and you guys are doing amazing things, even in sensitizing that particular area. And you spearhead organizations, communication initiatives, and mentorship programs within Crime CPOA. And you're passionate about bringing change to the community, and children in particular. Yeah. Karibu sana. You want to say hi to our viewers this afternoon?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm glad to be here to represent the young people in our community. So I'm looking forward to an engaging conversation and entertaining one. So tune in and share and definitely comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
You can tell she's a YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. That's what they say, huh? Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to be doing that definitely. And last but not least, we have Eric Justin, who is a political scientist and strategist. You know, this caught my eye because we're in a political season in Kenya. For those of us who are watching us, and maybe you're not Kenyans, we're actually just 2 days to our general election. You know, and every time there's such a cycle, the political tensions are up there, and political scientists like yourself, all of our screens, giving us all kinds of analysis. So I don't know if after this you're rushing to to give some data somewhere, but it's definitely good to have you around. And just to read a bit about what Eric does. He's currently working for Beacon of Hope. And I think you've also gotten to engage with Ken Wathome, who's at Beacon of Hope as well. And you work here as a data officer. And this is interesting because there's a place of technology and data even in leadership. And we know we're going to just be addressing that shortly. He volunteers with Blessed Link as a project assistant and Young Mentors Initiative as a programs officer. So karibu sana Justin, it's great to have you. Say hi to the viewers.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much for this opportunity to engage with the young people. I'm so humble and I feel honored to be part of this amazing opportunity. It has come at the right time because we're in the political season, and I just look forward to having an amazing discussion.
Amazing. Karibuni sana. So as you have already heard, today we are discussing leadership. And leadership, you know, John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership. And if you think about it, the fabric of every sphere, be it self, be it community, be it country, is actually founded on some leadership aspect. And so leadership is not a conversation that any of us can run away from, or can say, you know, you can't hide your head in the sand and say, I'm not concerned about leadership and politics and anything in that line, governance. We must be invested, and especially as youth, you know, in this particular conversation. So I want to start us on that point and get us to understand, you know, when you talk about leadership, first of all, you must be able to lead yourself. It must start with self-leadership. Then you can be able to lead your community and your teams. Then maybe you can even be able to lead your country. And so I want to start at the basic level of trying to understand what is leadership. You know, this is a word that is thrown out very carelessly. You know, I'm a leader, you know, I do X, Y, Z. You know, there's a time we went to launch some leadership programs in Ethiopia. And we said, we are coming actually, we are passionate about leadership. And guys were cringing. And so some guys called us to the side and said, you might want to use another terminology because leadership in this country is actually associated with dictatorship. When they hear leadership, they associate it with dictatorship. And so that context was not right for us to be able to use that particular, you know, terminology. So I'm going to start just by asking you, Nancy. And maybe some of the, you know, as I was reading, I found a very interesting definition here by Warren Bennis. And it says, leadership is like beauty. It is so hard to define it, but when you see it, you know it. You know, and that caught my eye. I was like, this is interesting. Leadership is like beauty. When you're asked to describe what leadership is, it might be a bit hard to define it, but when you see a leader, you're going to know this is a leader. And Dwight D says that leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. So tell me, Nancy, how would you define leadership in your own words?
I think for me, leadership is having the vision and being able to help other people help you achieve that vision. So it's not a one-man show, it's a group where you help other people also to help you achieve, because you cannot do everything by yourself. So I believe it's about being a vision carrier and helping people achieve that vision.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying. Leadership cannot be divorced from vision. Because vision is having a big picture of where you want to go, and then now bringing other people on board to be able to actually participate in that. And that's a very good answer. So, Flavia, let me turn to you. I know you've committed most of your life in just working with young people into that leadership kind of pipeline. And as I've said earlier, it is very hard to envision people before first envisioning yourself. So what tips can you give these young people watching us today in terms, if I want to master self first? Because there's no way you're going to master anyone else without mastering yourself first. So from your experience, from your own journey, and even from the journey of working with these young ones, what would you say are the key foundational blocks of self-leadership? What are those things that they must do to make sure that self is intact before they can actually step out to lead other people?
So, Joe, I think I will first start with how I see leadership. I would define it as two things.
Yeah.
Number one, it's a process. It's not just an individual. And this process has three legs. It has an individual who raises up to the occasion, sees a gap amongst people, and wants to help these people to move from where they are to where they need to be in filling that gap. But the other thing is that leadership is a lifelong journey. There is no day an authentic leader will say, I have arrived. Because the context keeps changing. Society is very dynamic. So the first process that an individual should start from is, what is that within my environment that I see a gap and I feel a nudge to rise up to the occasion?
Correct.
So that's the first thing you identify. What is that gap that keeps popping up? It might be very small, or it might be too big, but it doesn't go away. Don't ignore that. And then when it comes to that gap, who are the people that it's affecting? Because you can't lead everything. That's why some people are passionate about children. Some people are passionate about teens. Some people are passionate about older people, because it will involve people. You know, I say leadership is a leader who is in a ship. So in that ship, who are the people?
Repeat that again.
Leadership to me is a leader who is in a ship. By the time you find yourself in this ship, ask yourself, who are the passengers in this ship?
Yeah.
Because you are the one who is going to steer this ship to the direction it needs to go.
Awesome.
So number one, it's those gaps that keep pricking you, but also the people that are affected by that gap. And then after that, start coming up with a sense of urgency. Because it's one thing to see a gap, it's one thing to see people, but it's another thing to start the process of moving. So that's when now you create a sense of urgency by committing to that gap that you're seeing and making these people see there is a gap. And also encouraging them to know, I cannot do it alone. When we do it together, it becomes better. Collaboration. So it has to be a process. It has to be a three-legged stool with the person, the people, and the gap that is there. And then you start that journey.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love the simplicity of how, and the stool analogy, you know, the person, the people, and the gap. You know, and I like something you said there, which is very profound, that you cannot be a leader of everything. There are some things that actually, you know, and my mentor usually tells me, what are those things you see that make you angry? Like for me, I noticed one of those things is injustice. Anytime I see injustice being meted, I find myself getting very angry. And it's like, maybe that's the place that you need to be offering leadership, you know. So that's actually very profound, and I love that you actually condensed it into a process, you know, in the definition of that. And thank you for just bringing that perspective. So let me move over to you, Mr. Nudi. Let's contextualize this conversation to Kenya. Kenya is a very, in fact, if you look at, we were just studying some statistics the other day, and the median age of Africa is 19 years old. Can you believe?
Yeah.
19 years old. For me, it was a bit of a shocker.
Yeah.
19 years old. Now, let's come to Kenya. It says in Kenya that 5% of Kenyans are below the age of 30. In essence, that means if we decided to swing the vote of even this coming election next week, we can actually do that in a split second.
Yeah.
But then, the numbers don't match, the kind of youth engagement we are seeing on this other side. The youth are the most disenfranchised people we are seeing, involved in crime. The unemployment levels are, off the roof. So there's really a disconnect between the numbers that we enjoy as a youth, and the kind of impact we can have as young people. And so that means, and that is why I'm happy that actually everyone in this panel is a young person, because we are in a position that actually we can make change. Now, had the privilege to see you serving in campus as a student leader, and I think you also served in the national team. What are some of the things you can, you can tell us, are important? Why should youth, being the largest demographic, apply ourselves and be concerned about the leadership of our institutions, of our country, and why should we actually even take the next step? I like what Flavia is saying. There must be urgency, and that speaks to a sense of proactiveness. Why must we be concerned, and how do we now get into those spaces? And you can just speak to your experience as well, having been in that leadership kind of position.
Thank you, Joe. And let me just pick it from where Flavia left. And I like the context you brought where we are as a country, because we are just 2 days to the general elections. And there's one professor of mine who told us that if the devil was to come to Kenya today and run for any political post, bet you me he'll get it. Because one, he's very charismatic. But now, when we talk about leadership, for me, I look at it also with two connotations. We have the positive side, we have the negative side. So the professor was saying, the devil, yes, even if he was to run for presidency, he will win. But now the challenge is, he'll be leading people in the wrong direction. So even in Kenya, we have the political elite leading the young people in the wrong direction. And for those who have studied political science and things to do with leadership, like Justin, they normally use the rule of divide and conquer. So what they are doing, they know if the youths are empowered, they'll not get those positions. So they make sure that the youths are disenfranchised and they are not empowered.
Right.
Because it is very easy for you to control someone who is not empowered.
True.
But for young people who are a bit enlightened, who are a bit informed, it's very difficult to find them in the streets throwing stones. But allow me also to just pick it in my experience. And one of my mentors, who is the university chaplain of St. Paul's University, is called Reverend Gethenji. He used to challenge me every day and used to tell me, Thomas, if you want to be a preacher, start preaching now. Don't wait until tomorrow. And that is why you'll find most of us young people nowadays are a bit enlightened. We are taking those spaces. However much the numbers are not how we would want them to be, but we are heading towards the right direction. And for me, he told me one thing, that leadership is service, as simple as that. When I'm told to define what is leadership, for me, my definition of leadership is service. And they normally say, if you want to know a good leader, look at the amount of service they offer to the community and the amount of sacrifice. Because they normally say, if you want to be a good leader, serve until it hurts. If it is giving, give until it hurts. So if you don't reach that point of you feeling the pinch, then just know that you're not going your full length. And I like what Flavia said and earlier, and what you mentioned also about climbing mountains. And she'll tell you, for you to reach the peak, for instance, Mount Kenya, for you to reach Lenana, there's that pinch that you're going to feel. You feel like giving up, but there is that inner strength that makes you and gives you the drive. So for me, I think the young people right now, especially in Kenya, are more enlightened. They are taking up those spaces. Unfortunately, the numbers are not as we would like, but we are heading towards the right direction. And I believe it's just a matter of time, and the youths will get their rightful place.
Amazing. And I like, you know, guys, there are a lot of tweetable quotes here, you know. Serve until it hurts. You know, I'm also learning something there, because sometimes you want to stay in your comfort zone, and you want to be comfortable. But when it comes to, you know, when it comes to that, you know, Kenya tunasemanga musema kweli moment, then people are pulling out because they don't want to place themselves, you know, on the chopping board. But leadership has to be about service, and serving to the point that it hurts. So thank you for bringing that out. So let me turn to you, Justin. Tell me, now that you're a political scientist, there's been this notion in Kenya, and maybe it's the truth actually, that as young people we are crying and saying we want to be involved, we want to lead, but the few young people who've actually been, I don't want to mention any names here, but the few people who've actually been given that privilege to go into office and serve in whatever capacity, in corporates, and even the president is actually on record, on national media saying, these young people, I will not give them, because when they come into office, all they do is loot and steal. He's actually on record saying that. And for me, I heard that and I was really heartbroken. And I was like, have we messed our reputation as young people? Do we have the capacity, Justin, to be given these positions and to actually perform optimally as expected and even outshine, so that we reverse that narrative that young people are just jokers and the only thing they're interested in when they come into these spaces is actually to loot and enrich themselves, just as the older people. Because the narrative has been, no, the young people can do better, better vision, less tribalistic, less corrupt. But it looks like some of that's not very true. So, you know, what's your comment on that?
Thank you, Joe. I just have a rejoinder to what Tim Thomas has said.
Yes.
One thing that breaks my heart is that we are 43% of the population in Kenya. 35.7 million are aged between under 35 years old. So one thing that Kenyan people lack, or the young people, is that we are not having a unified voice. We are not able to speak as a voting bloc, we are not able to speak as a people, or we are not able to drive an agenda because we are not unified.
Right.
Just to come to what you say about young people having the capacity. We have the potential, we have the capacity to be leaders. My theory is that the reason as to why we are tainted is because of the system, the value-based system that, the system that we are in. We are not in a value-based system. So we have created a culture that makes or creates opportunities for people to be corrupt. And so I usually say that habits are fed. Cultures come from habits, right? And so you don't just wake up and say that I am a corrupt leader. No, it is something that you've continuously done. And so for us to change the narrative, it begins with us. Leadership begins with, it is us to change it. Once we change the mindset, once we are accountable at the spaces that we are in, that is when we are able now to influence, that's when we are able to change the narrative. So cultures are broken by us not feeding the habits. So once we stop feeding the habits of umekutana na polisi as a young person, umetoa bribe. When you stop doing that, continuously, the culture deteriorates. And once it deteriorates, the society has a complete different perception on how they view young people and leadership.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, you wanna?
Yeah. I wanted to talk, I think when you talked about the young people being tainted, our reputation being tainted, I just remembered there was some time in social media where everyone was talking about Gen Z and how and how they behave in the workforce. The issue for me that I have with this is that just we have a few individuals that are used to describe a lot of us because majority of us are in these positions and we are working like a lot. We are doing the best that we can. We are working hard, but now those few are used to now stereotype every young person that oh, when they are given a leadership position they can't do it, or you know they will quit. And you meet so many people I've met by the and they are referring to that same thing. And I'm like, I'm here. I'm a young person. I'm working hard. So what about us? Why are you not talking about the positive side of us? Why are you always referring to the negatives that you're seeing? There are young people in leadership, even in political positions, and they're doing great things. So why not also focus on that and try to elevate that voice instead of focusing on the negative? So for me, I'm like, let's elevate the good side. Let's help those who are working hard and empower them to be able to take up even greater positions and create greater change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, thank you for bringing that up, Nancy. And you're just speaking to the fact that, and as a society, I think, we have this tendency to magnify things that are not working. The negativity, but nobody is putting time to actually praise what is working. And unfortunately, the media has actually fallen prey to this behavior, unfortunately, which actually should be the main tool. And I just want to remain with you, Nancy, and say, now that you're a communications expert, tell me, what's the role of media in actually shaping and actually just projecting the voice of the youth and the great things the young people are doing? And you're so right. I've met so many young people, some were even teens, 19, 18, and the kind of transformational things they're doing in their communities is out of this world. But you'll never get to hear about it in the news. Every time you get onto the news, it's negativity, it's these political bigwigs, of course the two sides, you know, and a lot of news about that takes 70%, then another 20% about accidents, and the remaining 10% is sports, and it's done. But we're not taking time to highlight these very positive stories. So, as a young person, and you know, as a person in the media kind of industry, what do you think we can do to amplify this voice?
I think it's just left to us to take that charge, take that position, and actually highlight the stories ourselves. Because honestly, waiting for the media to do that for you, you're going to wait for a long time. Because we've had events, like for example, when they're talking about young people and now and violence. We have young people who are actually they need the message of peace.
Right.
Speaking to other young people and telling them, okay, let's maintain peace. There are youths who walked from 600 kilometers just speaking to community members and telling them, let's maintain peace. But you won't see that on the media. But wait until a youth is seen somewhere throwing a stone. That will be everywhere. So you see, so how about highlighting this? Because when I see that, then I'm also inspired. Okay, let me go and have these conversations as well. Okay, when I hear somebody saying something negative, I'm like, no, don't say that. Like, you know, so we need to highlight these things. Not only, don't, because the good thing about social media is it has given us all a platform, which is, I feel, the greatest thing about this generation. So you as an individual can be able to speak out. I've been seeing even on my social media platforms, you go to people's stories and people are saying great things even about the elections and advising other young people. So if we can be able to use that platform for our good and to share these messages, if I go through my stories, if I go through my feed, I'm able to see these stories, because even the media today is struggling also to enter into the social media.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
So there is power. We have power of social media. Let's use it. That's what I would say.
Love it. Love it.
And Joe, I just want to make a comment there, and I liked what Nancy said. When this conversation about Gen Z started, I personally believe that the future will depend on the wisdom of the old being merged with the energy of the young.
Nice.
By the time this leader is making a comment that every time I bring youth, they do A, B, C, D, who has modeled that to them?
Got it.
Could that leader stand and say, based on my journey as a leader, I have mentored or I have modeled how leadership should be
Look like, yeah.
through this person. Because personally, I say you will measure your level of success as a leader based on the successes you have.
Brilliant.
So all these political leaders that are saying Gen Z, Gen Z, bring us a Gen Z that you can say, I modeled the kind of leadership I want to see in our youth in this person.
Yeah.
Let's avoid I call it the Adamic syndrome, where you blame, you blame, accuse, and excuse.
You're dropping bars today, Flavia. Blame, accuse, and
Excuse.
excuse.
Yes, you will say it's the Gen Z.
Yes.
They have made me do this. But what is your role, you, as that leader?
Right.
I'm waiting for a Kenya where these political leaders will say, in this journey, I can show you Justin. I've been mentoring and modeling to him what political leadership should be.
Right.
In this journey as a CEO, I've been mentoring Nancy. And I can show you these are the lessons I have shown Nancy. In this foundation that I have been carrying, I have mentored Nudi. And now Nudi, for example, the chaplain at St. Paul can say, before you accuse Gen Z, have you found Nudi who has sat under me?
Under me.
And he's becoming
Wow.
better than me.
Wow.
So I think it's not a older generation and Gen Z thing. No, there has to be
It's
a
about
bridge,
A sweet spot that is attained.
an intergenerational coming together so that there is no gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. You guys are speaking so much wisdom over here, man. Because those are the same issues that actually employers are facing. They're saying that in the workplace it's so hard to get, the baby boomers and the Gen Zs to work together. But if we leverage on that, as Flavia is saying, like there is power in just bringing these two together and leveraging on the strengths and actually just even mitigating on the weaknesses of the two. And the product of that can be very beautiful if you're just very intentional about it. And I love that. There's something you said, Nancy, to the power of social media. And that even mainstream media is actually now coming back. I was watching the awards and one of the leading stations in Kenya won the digital award because they've also realized everybody is watching digital. And so there's something you say that is very powerful. As you go onto your Instagram, you young person watching us, as you go to your TikTok, what other, nowadays they're overtaking us, what other platforms are there? Nancy, where will you? TikTok, I know TikTok is big.
It's really
WhatsApp
big.
chat? Snapchat. As you do all those filters and stuff, can you use your social media to actually be
Yes.
a catalyst and a conduit of this message?
Yeah.
So that, the narrative is not like young people are just lousy, they're not interested in leadership. We must find a way. And by the way, I think generally, this does just not apply to the youth. We have a problem of telling our stories.
Absolutely.
True.
And I learned the other day that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell a twisted version of it.
True.
So you'd better arm yourself and give the story that you want to be heard. Yes. Justin, you have a rejoinder. Yes.
So technology is one of the most tool that young people can use to advance or influence.
Right.
In Tunisia, in 2014, the famously known as Jasmine Revolution was done by young people. How did they do it? They started the revolution in their WhatsApp group,
Really?
in their social media platforms. So it is up to us to leverage on the opportunities that we have as young people. Yeah, it is us to. We were having a conversation before the meeting,
Yes.
and we were saying young people are afraid of doing the work. So many people will say, I don't want to get into politics, the die is cast.
Yeah.
I don't want to participate in this, the die is cast. You see, the moment we change our perspective, there is 7 habits done by Stephen
Steve
Covey.
Covey, yeah.
And he says that if you want to change your current situation, you must first change yourself.
Absolutely.
And you must then change your perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah. So as young people, it is us to step into the waters and take charge.
Absolutely.
Use the leverage on the platforms and the opportunities that social media is doing, has given us. And so until that time, we'll still complain and say the president has done this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess in your own small space with your own small phone and your own little data, you can come online and speak some sense you know, to some of the issues that are happening in our community. I just want to ride on what Justin is saying and come back to you, Flavia. You know, there's been a lot of voter apathy, especially among the youth. Just yesterday I was seated with some young people and they're telling me, in fact, if it is cold that day, we will consider, we might not. Some have decided we are actually not voting. And those who are voting have decided we are going to protest vote. We are going to vote for, guys, if you're not in Kenya, there's a guy called Wajakoya. He's on the ballot and he has some very interesting ideas. You know, Nudi mentioned that if the devil came to run, I hope it doesn't show up in the ballot paper because our God is stronger. But really, Flav, on a serious note, a lot of apathy, you know, guys are like, as Justin said, there's a deep state somewhere. I'm sure you've heard that.
Yes.
Who have already decided who will be the president. Why would I go and play a game that has already been decided? And so the question to you is this. Can you speak to these young people on their need to participate in the electoral process? In fact, just do a post-mortem even before you answer that and tell us, why do you think there is apathy? Why do you think young people are behaving like this? Then after that, speak to them and say, why is it important for them to participate? And not only the political processes, because you know it's a broad spectrum. Why do we need to, you know, after elections, there is 5 years. How do we keep these guys accountable? Political accountability. You don't have to be a politician. Governance. How do we begin, Nudi, to influence policy, you know, as young people? So what do you think there is apathy and what can we do to proactively, you know, influence in that space?
Let me just use my personal example on the times I have seen a gap. I will confess to you.
Yes.
I've tried to leave this country
Confessions.
twice. I've tried to leave this country twice. First, because of a medical situation that my mother went through in 2002.
Yes.
And I felt like the health system is crazy.
It was broken,
Yes. Later on is when I was in debt. And
you were running away from your...
and the bank interest just went haywire.
Yes.
You know, you are like, who is for us?
You're on our own.
Is there hope in this Kenya? And the moment I started saying that, how can I participate? Flav, just Flav, me. And I said, but I'm just a drop in the ocean. And I got this sense in my heart that without that drop, you cannot cause a ripple in the ocean.
Right.
If the waters are still and there is no drop that falls on that ocean, there will never be a ripple. So from that day, Joe, that's how I live my life. I determined I will look for more drops so that together we can become the ripple that is required. So for that young person who is saying, but I am just a drop in the ocean, start looking for other drops and cause a bigger rain that can cause a ripple on this nation. Start from where you are. You know, I don't want to preach, but a mustard seed can be the smallest.
Preach.
But when the tree grows, many find shelter on that bud. My grandmother used to say, never live in the what if. Because what if is based on assumption. Always live in the now that. Now that I took that risk, it worked. Or now that I took that risk, I know how it doesn't work. You will have a gained experience from now that than staying in the what if. So many youth now are saying, what if, what if, what if? But who knows? Maybe if you do the now that, something will happen. The other encouragement that I would want to give the youth, please don't be carried away with these instant things. I like Instagram. I don't understand Indomie. Let me confess to you that something can be ready in 2 minutes. I don't understand. So it's like youth of today, Joe, they don't have tenacity and endurance. And I like the story of Malawi. He spoke about Tunisia.
The other day we listened to the president of Malawi being asked, how did these people put you in leadership? A godly person.
Yeah.
And he said, I never thought about becoming a leader. Some university students somewhere sat together and asked, what is the Malawi we want to see?
Right.
They wrote down the attributes of the Malawi they wanted to see. Then they said, for this Malawi to happen, who are the leaders that have these characteristics?
Wow. Wow.
Then they went to the community and said, out of these leaders, how would you categorize them? And this bishop ended up being number 1 in that list. So the youth went to this bishop and told him, this is the Malawi we want. These are the characteristics of the leaders we want. These are the names we have, and you come top. We want you to run for office. He told them, I have to go and hear God for myself first. Can you imagine? These are youth who have sat. But Joe, it took 7 years for these young people to sit with this president and give him strategy on how he's going to get into office, even determine the campaign strategy with social media and all these things he did not know. So I'm saying, if the youth feel like they are not ready now, let's start strategizing for 2027.
Amazing.
Start working on it now so that time you don't have lethargy because it's too late, we haven't done
too late.
anything.
I love that.
So
I
yes,
love
we
that.
have 2 days, but can we start a strategy now
For the next
for the next 5
5
years?
years, yeah.
And start identifying that and mobilize all resources that are at our exposure.
at our disposal.
Yes,
I,
at our
I
disposal.
absolutely love that, man.
Yeah.
You know, and guys, I'm ready to be identified and to start walking the journey for the next 5 years. But I love how that pyramid has been inverted, Yani.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Like we start with the attributes, then we scan and say, okay, who is the best fit for this?
Yeah.
But in Kenya, it's the other way around. It's almost like who doesn't have all the attributes? Okay, there are these 3. Okay, bring them forth. You know.
Maybe Joe.
Yes.
Just to add some weight
Yes.
on what Flavia said. She has talked about voter apathy, especially among the young people. But the way I look at it also is just to build on what she said, is the youths are trying to communicate. But the question is, who is listening? You know, who is listening? You know, where I come from, I come from the lakeside. So there's a famous story.
What do you say?
I just whisper. They say that if you see the tilapia come out of the lake and it tells you that the Nile perch is unwell, you better believe it. You know? You better believe it. Because you don't live in the water. They live in the water, they are cousins.
That's
you know?
interesting. Yeah.
You better believe it. So what I'm trying to say to any young person out there who is watching, and I like what Flavia said, that there is hope, but that hope needs to be planted. It's like a seed. A tree doesn't grow in a day. You know, it is a seed that is planted, and we need to be proactive.
Right.
So the youth are trying to communicate, but nobody is listening.
Yes.
One of the things that you'll find that the youths are suffering from, they go up to university, they come out of university, there are no jobs. So the youths are saying, we don't have jobs, but who is listening? Who is taking action? Nobody. The youths have, let's say, gotten the job, they want maybe to start a family. There's a lot of pressure, you know, maybe from the society. And maybe the young person is saying, give me some time, you know, but nobody is listening. Some of them are in drugs, you know. Some of them are in vices in the community. They are trying to speak. Even when there's voter apathy, that is a way of communication. They are trying to communicate something. So what we are saying is we need leaders who are ready to listen to these young people and identify what is the issue that is affecting these young people and how can it be sorted.
Right.
But just to summarize it, is we should not give up, and I love the book written by the former US President Barack Obama, and it's called The Audacity of Hope. You know, for any young person out there who is watching, just know that there is hope, because the moment you lose that hope, it is the moment you cease living. It's like you are a dead person. So you should never lose hope. Let's plant that seed. Let's start with those small droplets. It might be 1 drop, it might be 2 drops, but at the end of the day, the change will come. And you know the beauty about life is that change is inevitable.
Absolutely.
You can't stop it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the next time I'm eating fish, I'll definitely remember that. Yes. So we're talking about audacious hope.
Yeah.
We're talking about you're never too small or insignificant to cause a difference.
Yeah.
It's about the small drops that, come together with time to form the big lake.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. Justin. Oh, okay, maybe let's hear from, Then we come to Justin,
As you guys were speaking, I just
Yeah.
remembered a conversation I had with Anduthi guy just before I came here.
Yeah.
And he was just telling me how he's the leader of the association around this area. And for him, he didn't want to be a leader. But now the people, he didn't want to be a leader. And they're like, you can make a good leader.
Yeah.
And he didn't even
Campaign.
campaign for himself.
Yeah.
So his friend is the one who's going everywhere, buying people soda, telling, hey, vote
Vote
for
for
this
that guy.
And he actually won.
Wow.
So I liked that idea that as young people, to see Kai too, and you're like, there's no hope.
Yeah.
The leader's already been chosen. I'm not like, you doing that, there's still going to be consequence of that action because there's going to be a leader who's going to take that position, and it's going to affect you. It's not like you're living in a different country.
Absolutely.
You're in that same country, it's going to affect you. So how about, as she has said, we collect the drops?
Yeah.
How about you come up with your own leader? I remember there's a guy who ran in, I think it was in Meru, and he went house to
John
house.
Yes,
How
John Paul.
about how about you stand up, go that house to house, try from that small place and start from there. If they say be the change you want to see, then be that change. Because I think there's this idea of just being like, I saw there's an article on People Daily, the 10 flexes. And then the people who I don't vote, like like it's a cool thing. No, it's not a cool thing. We need to stand up and take charge of our country, because whether we like it or not, it's going to affect us. The
Love
leaders
it.
who are in position, they're going to affect us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're gonna feel it when
Yeah.
the fuel price.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was at Carrefour and they just loaded a truck of maize flour, the subsidized one at 97 bob. 12,000 units. Within 30 minutes, there was no unga. My heart just, guys were fighting for that unga. Like, in fact, most of it was wasted because guys are like trying to, and now that has also brought out the selfishness in Kenyans because another person has come and fill in the, a whole trolley. I was like, man, choices have consequences.
Yeah.
This is leadership at play. Because we elected these people, now, in fact, I've not eaten ugali the last week. And I'm borderline very because of our leaders. So you cannot afford to not care because it will affect you like it or not. Yes, Justin.
One of the things that I communicate every time I'm in a podium is unity. It is the only way we can make a difference. It is the only way. It has been said by Flavia, it has been said by I keep
Thomas.
Thomas and Nancy. So until that time, we are able to come together as young people. We will not move. My heart is always saddened most of the time when I converse with young people, and a majority of young people that I talk to, I ask them, "Are you a registered voter?" And then she says, "No." Again, same language, the die is cast. Same language, I am seated here not doing anything. So in fact, some of them would say that, majority of them would say that they want to get opportunities. They want to know how they will create wealth. So my question is, how then will you create wealth without a state? You have to get involved.
Absolutely.
Right? You are doing business. There are poor roads. Right?
It affects your business.
It affects your business.
Directly.
So we have to get outside and get involved.
Absolutely.
That is the clerical call.
Yeah, and what you're saying is we really have to have a very stubborn resolve that things will not go wrong on our watch.
Yeah.
That will be proactive, participators And that when we decide to move this direction as young people, that we will not look back. In fact, the good word, let me also attempt to preach, says that anyone who puts his hand on the plow and looks back is not worthy of the calling. You know, and that is when things begin to go wrong. And that cannot afford to be our story. So let me come back to this side. Nudi, tell me. We talked about the kind of Malawi they wanted, and they got it. So, from your leadership experience with young people, what kind of Kenya do you think we need? And what kind of Kenya do you think we want?
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. First, let me begin by saying in everything, even when you want to build a house, you need a foundation, isn't it? You need a foundation. So, for me, I'm looking at it in the perspective of we need a very strong foundation. And where does that foundation come from? For me, I believe that it comes from God, you know. So one, we need to put our spiritual levels or our spiritual levels in a good place. Because from our spiritual levels, then that is where we'll get the foundation. And it depends. Maybe you are a Muslim, you are a Hindu, you are a Christian. Depending on your spirituality, that is where, for me, I believe the morals canvas will come. So the Kenya I want, first of all, we need God-fearing leaders. And not just by saying, I'm born again, Christ is Lord, you know, but by your actions. And they say, let your actions speak so loud until we can't hear what you're saying. But in Kenya, it is vice versa, you know. Your words are so loud, but your actions, very low, you know. So they need to match, you know. So for me, the Kenya I want, or I would like to see, is where first our spiritual nourishment is very strong, because that is where our moral canvas will come from. And then after that, we go to what I said about what leadership is. Do we have servant leaders? You know, like the way Jesus was. You know, Jesus was a servant leader. So do we have people who are ready to serve? You know, until it hurts. Because I can tell you for free, most of these leaders, and I know we know them, back in their homes, they eat ugali as much as they like. Not like you said you haven't eaten ugali for the last 1 week. But I like what Mother Teresa used to say. She used to say that let the things that touch the heart of God touch my heart. When you think about somebody sleeping hungry that night, does it touch your heart as a leader? You know, do you feel anything? When you see young people killing each other on the streets, do you feel anything? So if you don't feel anything, then it means you are not a leader, right? Because it needs to hurt you. It needs to hurt you. Sorry. So the other thing is we talk about integrity, but over the years I've come to learn that the way my colleagues have said that it begins with us. So if you don't have integrity, how do you expect then our leaders to have that integrity that you're looking for? Because they are a reflection of us. You know, when you're giving that bribe, however small it is, you know, you are not adhering, not being true to what you want to see. So whatever we want to see, let it start from us. And I like what Flavia said about the three-legged stool. You know, there's the person, that is you, and then there are the people, and then there's the gap. You know, so for us to fill that gap, let's be the change that we want to see, the way Nancy said. Because until we do that, change will never come. Change will never come. So it starts with us.
Absolutely. Wow, guys, you know, I'm having such a blast. This conversation is so loaded, so excited, and so timely. And man, you know, time flies when you're having a good time. I see we're already 50 minutes in. So we're going to start landing the plane shortly. But I don't know if there are any questions on the chat. So maybe the team can assist us. I don't know if you're already live, but Yeah, we want to hear if, yeah, okay, yeah. So you're going to highlight some of the questions as we go. But let me just do the last round of questions here, even as we wait to see what we have there, and ask this. Okay, maybe let me come this way, then I come back this way. Nancy, Nudi is speaking to some key attributes of leadership. He's mentioned the centrality of morality. In fact, I love that our national anthem acknowledges that. It says, "O God of all creation." You know, God, it doesn't matter what religion you are, but you must, you know, at least know there is a higher being who is God, right? Speaking to integrity. What are some of the other attributes you think that we cannot compromise on when it comes to leaders in this country? That this is, in their toolkit, they must have this set of qualities.
I would say servant leadership. That you are in service of others. So with that, then you'll be able to, as I said, not be okay when you see people going hungry. You'll not be okay when you see things are going wrong and people are crying, people's houses are being taken down. So having that servant leadership, the good book also says that to be a leader, you must be a servant. So I think that is also a very key attribute to have as a leader, that you are ready to serve others. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Flav, I think the thing that cuts across, you know, all of us is that we are passionate about leadership and leadership development. Of course, as we sit here and we discuss about these great leaders that our country needs, we know they will just not, you know, there is that great debate, are leaders made or are they born? Me, I believe it's a hybrid of the two. Because even if you're born a leader, especially when you want to contextualize, then there must be an element of being shaped to fit into a certain context. And I know all of you are running great initiatives to do with leadership development. So, Flav, what do we need to do as we do these programs to make sure that the kind of leader coming out from the other side of the pipeline is actually a full hardy kind of leader? And you know, there are different things, you know, methodology we use and pedagogies when it comes to leadership development. You know, others will say coaching, mentorship, you know, you talk about training even. But what do we need to do to make sure? What are some of the things that we need to do to make sure that by the time that leader is getting out of that pipeline and we are sending them to represent us, then they're gonna shine and, you know, they're not gonna let us down, you know, well at it. What are some of those things we need to do even as we raise the leaders?
So I think, Joe, we have different generations. I'll go back to that first one. Intentional succession planning.
Right.
The moment I come in as a leader, I can't remember who said it, but they say that if you're a good leader, the moment you step into that position, you also start planning for your exit.
Right.
So when you enter into, if we are going to look for future leaders, first and foremost, I'll give the model that I have used. You have to identify both dormant and active potential.
Right.
Before we came live, we were saying of the way some leaders throw you in the deep end. Sometimes the dormant potential has to be like provoked so that it erupts. And sometimes this very active potential has to be toned down so that it fits in and is able to fit in with other people.
Right.
So my first recommendation is intentional identification of prospective leaders.
Awesome.
Okay? The second thing is the characters that you want to see in these people. In the interviewing processes we have done both in the corporate and church, we say there are 4 key elements you look for in someone. Calling, which is natural gifts that people have. There are things that come to certain people naturally.
Yes, they don't struggle much.
They don't struggle. There are people who have talent. If given the time and opportunity to practice, it will come out. There are people who it's a hobby. There's a people who it's a desire. They've come from a very bad place, they want to change the status quo. Or they've come from a very good place, they want to maintain their standard.
Right.
So identify that calling in that person. But the other thing is character. Are you living what you're saying? Can people say that we see the demonstration of what you do behind the scenes when you come to the public?
Right.
But the other thing is competence. Because sometimes we put people in leadership, but they are not able to do that which they are supposed to do. And I like the fact that it's good for people to go to school.
Yeah.
I don't think education is just classroom setup, but there is a way even you should be schooled in life.
Right.
That we can see an element of competence in you. But the last thing, Joe, is also chemistry. How do you identify with other people? Do you get into office and then you just lean towards the people you prefer?
Yeah.
Yet Kenya is a community that has 47
Very diverse.
tribes.
Absolutely.
You know, and we are even going to get other internationals. Indians are part of us now.
Yeah.
The way we are going, the Chinese might be part of us. So are you a leader who is able to have chemistry with everyone? Or will you like the old people, you leave the youth? Or will you prefer the men, you leave the women? Or will you prefer the older, you leave the young? Or will you prefer the younger, you leave the older? So this element of people dynamics and chemistry across
Yeah, very
will
important.
be very critical.
Yeah.
So I would say that's what I would say. There has to be that intentional successional planning. But there has to be these 4 elements of the calling of the person, the character of the person, the competence of the person, and the chemistry of the person with the people that he's going to be leading and even working with in different environments.
Man.
Maybe just to add on what Flavia is saying, allow me to add a C,
fifth C.
another C. For me, I
You
think,
can add as many by the way.
I
Yes.
think consistency also
Yeah.
is very key. I'll give a very simple example. Today, Joe,
Yes.
if we elect you to be the governor of Nairobi,
Which you should do.
we know Joe is a good person, you know. But the moment he steps in that office, I don't know what happens. People change.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
right. Yeah.
Thomas was a good person, Eric was a good person,
Yeah.
Nancy was a good person, Flavia was a good
But
person.
when you went in, he changed.
But immediately you go in, your morals
My goodness.
go down.
Yeah.
So I think consistency also is very key. But just to finish on what she said also about identification of the next generation of leaders.
Yeah.
You know, Chinua Achebe says that a chick that grows to become a cock, it is seen the first day it hatches. So you can tell, the way Flavia is saying, you can tell the moment you see some potential, you can say this one, I think they can make a
A
great
good leader.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, we are laughing because you have very nice examples, and all of them have to do with the things we can eat. But I absolutely love that. Do you want to add another C, Justin?
So they have mentioned the 5 C's.
Yes.
An analogy is told, a story is told
Yes.
of an entrepreneur in the US who happens to have a 7th grade. So the 7th grade comes back from school and says, "Daddy, today I was made the president." And he says, the dad says, "Wow, this is the most amazing news I've had today. What did you do?" And so the son says, "I opened the door." And you saw, I mean, so the dad now has a change of mindset and he says, "A leader opens
Those.
doors."
Wow.
So for me, a leader opens doors. So the mere fact that the young person opened the door for his fellow classmates, that made him become a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, that also brings the aspect of servanthood that everybody's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
It brings the aspect of identifying and understanding and meeting the needs of the people you
Yeah.
lead. And so that student, that 7th grade,
Yeah.
understood and met the need.
True.
Wow. Guys, you can't make up this stuff, man. Yeah. Hey, let me tell you, you don't get such value. You better take this thing, circulate it as wide as you can, because this is wisdom for ages. If you implement these things we're discussing here, then you're gonna be an excellent leader. And I'm being told by my producer there that there are some questions. That's what you're saying. Okay, let's have the questions, and as they come, let's recount the 5 C's. We're talking about character, calling,
Character,
character,
competence,
competence,
chemistry,
chemistry,
consistency.
consistency. And now how can we Opening doors, how can it fit into a seat? You know, we have to also be creative as leaders. We want to force it, we have to force issues.
I think
Catalyzing, yes. No, absolutely. Because you're a catalyst.
Catalyst,
You know? Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I know our viewers are watching.
Yes.
They can also assist us
Yes,
in
comments.
coining that seat.
Yes. Let's come up as many.
In the
and
comment section.
We can actually write a book
and
and
the
call it
tweets.
the 10 C's. Or however many C's we come up with. So
Yeah.
are the questions ready? Yes, yes. Who is asking? Who I need? Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Sylvester
Yes. Sylvester
Wafula.
Wafula.
Yes.
Excellent.
I like very much the examples the gentleman is giving, especially
About fish and the.
food.
Yeah.
Africans love food.
You're a true African.
My question is going to Flavia. I just wanted to know whether up to today you recognize the role that our religious institutions are playing in creating of leaders and guiding of leadership. Has it done a good job? Is there anything maybe it should have done better? What could be done in that section?
Yeah.
And then the second one also is, I also just want your opinion in regards to a youth suit of leadership, especially involving the state and government. Don't you think that maybe we are mobilizing leadership in a good place, but in the wrong direction? For example, we have very many grassroots leaders, very potential leaders, but we do not see them grow into positions of serious influence in government because some of them do not know the government processes. So you may not want to have a president like someone like me who doesn't even know what procurement is to be a cabinet secretary.
Right.
So is there maybe a way we ought to link our leadership growth from the grassroots to the specifics, for example, in institutions?
Love that. So the two questions, Flavia, number one, has the church failed in its role of raising leaders? Then number two, he's speaking to, there's a disconnect in the leadership pipeline. You know, so once you're a class prefect or a student leader, it ends there.
Yeah.
Yet these are the people we should actually be guiding. And actually it's interesting because we are working on a project with Flavia called 1 Million Leaders. 1 million leaders to just guide students and, you know, into that kind of pipeline. But maybe you can speak to those two questions before we land the plane. You know, the bell sign has already, you know, buckle up. You're about to land. So guys, in the next few minutes, you're going to be touching down. But let's hear from Flavia.
Yeah, so to answer the question, the first question is, I would say personally that the church has failed. Why has the church failed? Because his C comes in, consistency. I will not mention names, but there was a time a very influential church figure who used to speak to government was actually given a political office. But like he said, when he went in, there wasn't that element of consistency. Call me crazy, but today I get a chance to share what I think we should do.
Absolutely. Go for it.
If you look at Nairobi
Yeah.
and you look at the mega churches that are there, if I was to be asked if the churches came together and did the analysis that the Malawian youth did, and then the church leaders said, we have identified Joe from this church.
Yes, please.
We have identified Thomas
Yeah.
from this church. And we are saying they have the calling, the character, the competence, the chemistry, and the consistency.
Yeah.
And then they told all of us to vote for them. I think we would start a change as a church.
Wow.
If we say
Love
we
it.
are 80% Christian, we could leverage on that Christianity. But the other gap that I have seen when Christians enter into politics is the resource mobilization for the campaigns. Again, if the church was to fund some of these campaigns, there was even a crazy time that I was telling some of our international admirers who come here as missionaries. I was telling them we no longer need you as missionaries who are preaching the gospel because we are preaching the gospel to ourselves. I think you should come as missionaries who inject life in our political system, because in Africa
The problem is not the gospel. The problem is the leaders and governance that we have. So I was actually challenging some of these people, give us money to fund campaigns for Christians. For example, like the bishop who is running currently. What if the Christian community, both local and international, pumped resources for a campaign strategy?
Right.
So I think we can do more. The church hasn't done enough. And unfortunately, when it comes to the question about the grassroots level, I was part of the secretariat that did the Church and Politics Summit. And one of the things that was recommended is community-based organizations or an initiative that links outgoing politicians with incoming young people on a mentorship process where you start being mentored from where you are. There is also an element of, yes, political science courses are being offered in universities, but is there experiential learning?
Correct.
I'm a proponent for experiential learning. I don't believe in giving you theory, and then taking you to the field. I believe in experiential learning. So I think there should be an initiative that allows prospective upcoming politicians to shadow other politicians. And that's why my challenge was, if you are an outgoing governor who has done so much for your community, can you say that I have worked with so and so? You know, if you watch the story of the Queen of England and how the father had started introducing her to governance, you know, by the time she was going to be queen, she knew that you put the files upside down so that you don't make her father angry. The important files are actually down, but you don't want to start his morning in a bad way. So she knew, when I come here, they have put the nice things on top. So she already knew. He had shown her when she was around 7. So at 23, when she gets in, she knows, I need to flip these files because this is a priority. So I think there should be an element of shadowing, not mentorship, because mentorship sometimes is having coffee and talking.
Shadowing is more...
Shadowing is making decisions, listening to budgets.
It's more active.
Yes, making, prioritizing and participating in what is happening.
Love it. Maybe you could speak to the second question.
To the second question. And I just want to echo what Flavia has said. When we talk about these young leaders, there's one C that which is really important that you have mentioned about consistency. Joe can tell you for free that when Youth Engagement Society started, it was 5 years ago. 5 years down the line, we are still here, and I'm looking for 50 years more coming. So one of the challenges that we are having at the grassroots is you'll find, some people call them a microwave generation, so whereby we want instant things. But you see, for you to achieve some of these things, it requires that agility first, it requires that consistency, and being able to go all the mile. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, do you know how many trials he did before the light could come like the ones that we have here in this studio? The gentleman tried almost over 100 times before he could make the first successful attempt. But how many of us as young people are ready to go that 100 mile? Most of us will go for 5, maybe 10, and we give up, we despair. So I think the key thing also is never giving up and being true to your calling. And if you want to be that leader at the top, just trust the timing. They normally say trust the timing. And make sure that you're on that path, however long it takes. It might be 10 years, it might be 15 years, it might be even 20 or 30 or 40. I'll give another example as I conclude. And I know we know some of the presidential candidates that they are vying in Kenya today. One of them, this is how many time? 5th time he's trying. So he tried the first time, he didn't get it. The second time, he didn't get it. The third time, what does that show you? Even as young people, we need to have that agility, you know, because most of us will despair in the middle of the journey.
Great. Absolutely. Guys, it's been an extremely amazing conversation. You want to add in something?
Yeah, just
Quickly?
to-
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Just to add on what he's saying,
Yeah.
I think as young people, we need to move. Yes, there's the situation at hand. Whatever is happening, maybe you don't have that opportunity, you don't have that connection. And as the audience asked this question, was talking about how you don't know these procedures, but there's an opportunity for you to now go ahead and find it out. Look for those opportunities. If you really truly want to be in these positions, I don't think there's anything that should stop you.
Yeah.
You should not, we are not in a place where we just sit down and be like, okay, it's not available, let me just chill out.
Yeah.
You have the ability to go ahead and look for these opportunities for yourself.
Yeah.
Also there's an element of self-mentorship and self-growth. What are those gaps that are within you what are those gaps that you need to
Work on.
work on? So truly, like as young people, I think let's move from that place of victimization and like, oh, this
We
is
need
not
somebody else,
working,
yeah.
somebody has to connect me. If you stay there, nothing will ever change in your life.
You
So
must have an uncle
you know.
in a certain office. Love
so-
it, Nancy. That's brilliant. And that's actually called gumption, you know, in the dictionary. Kujituma. Usingoje ulete opportunities. Jitume. Jipeleke out there and actually be the one to fish for them. Wow. Guys, we are done. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? And I want to end with a quick fire session. Bio bio. So to answer A side. Justin, what's your favorite quote on leadership?
On leadership.
Yes.
So for me, Jesus Christ is my mentor.
Yeah.
He's hands down.
Yeah.
He's been the most influential leader.
Yeah.
200 years. Still influential.
Yes.
We talk about great people. We talk about people. We have leaders that we discuss within a period of time. But Jesus Christ
It's
still
constant.
is
Awesome.
Exactly.
So then, yeah.
For me, servant leadership is what drives me.
Yeah.
And so again, the analogy I said about opening doors,
Yeah.
Jesus opened the door.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's my famous, the thing that drives me is servant leadership.
Yeah.
If I see that, if I'm able to identify that in a leader, that is what drives me.
Excellent.
For me, I would say the quote that I live by is whatever you do, do it well.
Yes.
Give it your best shot.
Yeah.
With that, then everything else will fall into place because you are doing it as if you're doing it for self.
Yeah.
So give your best shot. Whatever challenges you're facing, go at it with your best shot.
Yeah.
Give it your all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, this idea is another question. What book would you recommend or podcast, you know, that these guys can actually, you know, go check out to sharpen themselves even as they prepare? Because leadership is here.
Yeah.
And we expect you to step into it. So what are some of the tools, either in form of a book or a podcast, that you can actually suggest for these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book that I would suggest is The Making of a Leader by Robert Clinton.
Correct.
And the podcast that currently is there and is available, even for free, is what used to be the Global Leadership Summit, is now called the Global Leadership Network. And they have an app, and you can be listening to some of the sessions that have been summarized, and they are contextualized depending. It's almost like what do you call the backside of the Bible? Why is this going? It's almost like an appendix that tells you if you're looking for servant leadership, listen to so and so.
Great stuff.
Yeah. So the
Awesome.
Making of a Leader, Robert Clinton,
Yeah.
and the Global Leadership Network. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so for me, if you allow me, Joe,
Yeah.
let me just give my favorite quote. I know I might sound
Okay.
redundant,
Please go for it.
but mine is not all famous people are great, but all great people are famous. And how do you measure greatness? You measure greatness through service. And how do you measure service? It is the amount of sacrifice that you put in to transform the community and the people around you. So coming back to my book, I think my favorite author is Robin Sharma. And I'll mention two books of his which inspire me. One, not let me mention 3.
Yeah.
One is the leader who had no title.
Great
You know,
book.
the leader
Yeah.
who had no title. So you don't have to have a title, you don't have to be a mheshimiwa for you
lead.
to lead. The second book is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And the last one, by the same author, Robin Sharma, is Who Will Cry When You Die. In simple terms, it means whatever you do, what will you be remembered for when you leave this earth? So who will cry when you die? So those are my 3 books.
Amazing. What a way to end this. Who will cry when you die? Parting shot, guys. I want you to do this. Look at the camera there. So what you're going to do, you're going to speak to the youth. And please, very brief. Just tell them, you know, in form of a parting shot, as we head to the elections next week, what do you want to speak to the youth? And also you can infuse your parting shot there as well. So this time round, I'm going to start with Justin, then come all, you know, this way. So Justin, very briefly.
So we are living in a VUCA world. That is what I commonly say. VUCA, to me, our world is volatile, it is uncertain, it is complex, and it is agile. And so for me, I advise every young people, even as we head to the polls, ask yourself, why do I want to vote? Do you have the need to vote? And so once you are able to answer the question why you need to vote, that in itself will give you the drive to help you, you know, have the need to go and vote. So for me, I would request every single person there, get involved, have the agility, have the urge, you know, to go and make the difference.
Awesome. Excellent. Nancy?
I will tell everyone that be bold, go out there, make a decision, because that decision affects you. So take a chance. Don't just sit down, take a chance, because your vote is your voice, truly.
Take a chance because your vote is your choice. Excellent. Flavia?
So I will leave you with one of my favorite statements, which is also a scripture. And it's an assignment for you to go and search it. Do you see a man diligent in his work? He shall not serve before mere man, he shall serve before kings. So in your process of getting to that top position so that you can make a difference, start with the diligence of where you are and remain consistent. And you will not serve before mere man, you will serve before kings.
Amazing.
So for me, for all the young people out there who are watching, I just want to say that make sure that you vote and make sure that your voice is heard. Because if you don't vote, then who will, you know? So make sure you vote, your vote counts, and that is how change starts. And also I'll finish with a Bible verse, which is also one of my favorite. And it says, and it's Psalms 18:32, and it says, "It is God who arms me with strength and makes me succeed." So in whatever that you do, make sure that God is at the center and you will never fail. Because even the good book says that seek ye the kingdom of God first, and everything else shall be added unto you. So always remember to put God first. And as we say, as St. Paulians, God above all. Thank you.
God above all. Thank you so much, guys. Nudi, Flavia, Nancy, Justin, it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you for finding the time to be with us. And I'm sure this conversation, even as it rotates, you know, within the interwebs, will influence for a long time. So thank you so much for being with us. And thank you to our amazing viewers for actually spending time to come and learn. And we pray that this will just not be another session you get to, you know, listen in, that you'll take some of these nuggets and actually apply them to your life and see that make a difference for yourself, for your community, and for your country. So guys, don't touch the dial. You know, I feel like I'm a news anchor now, you know. Another amazing session is coming up, and we're going to be talking about mental shift, you know, the whole issue about mental wellness and mental health. So that's coming up with another amazing panel. But from this panel, we just want to say thank you. Have an amazing time. Have an amazing, you know, day voting. Go out and vote that day, and make sure your voice is heard. My name is Joe Gashira. I'm the co-founder at Inuka Leadership Africa, and it's been amazing, you know, just being the facilitator of this session. Until next time, guys, God bless you. See you soon. Take care, and God bless Kenya. Bye-bye.